We are officially at the point where I 100% buy into the meme that Sony genuinely lost the code for Bloodborne, or they legitimately just misplaced everything related to re-releasing Bloodborne. I don't know how much of that is a meme and how much of that is actually someone heard something from somewhere, but after what I heard the other day, I 100% buy into that. There is no, okay, we're gonna go over what the flip happened here, and then we're gonna get into some people defending what the flip happened here, because that's actually where we're at with YouTube content and salt and game preservation. Oh my lordy. Okay, so the other day, the director of Bloodborne and From Software man supreme Miyazaki said that he knows for a fact other From Software devs want Bloodborne on PC, which I find very interesting because up to this point, there's been a popular theory that the reason Bloodborne hasn't been re-released is either because they lost the source code, or From Software is too busy, or yada yada yada. But let's read this entire quote from Miyazaki, and it will likely illuminate what's actually been happening here for you. Quote, "Obviously, as one of the creators of Bloodborne, my personal, pure, honest opinion is I'd love more players to be able to enjoy it, especially as a game that is now coming of age, one of those games of the past that gets lost on older hardware. I think any game like that, it'd be nice to have an opportunity for more players to be able to experience that and relive this relic of the past. So as far as I'm concerned, that's definitely not something I'd be opposed to." But the most interesting part is the part up at the top. Quote, "If I say I want one, I'll get in trouble, but it's nothing I'm opposed to. If I say I want one, I'll get in trouble." If Miyazaki, one of the creators of Bloodborne and the director of Bloodborne, if he says he wants a new version of the game, he gets in trouble. That sounds an awful lot to me like Sony holding an IP hostage. Doesn't it sound that way to you, dear viewer? This is more or less confirmation of what we already knew. That being that this has nothing to do with From Software, it has nothing to do with a lack of desire to preserve Bloodborne or re-release Bloodborne, it has to do with Sony literally not allowing it. For one reason or another, this is 100% on Sony. And when people get on my case for being super harsh on Sony, when I get on their case for being complacent and being a horrible anti-consumer company, this is exactly what I'm talking about. A beloved game that sold gangbusters and that people are begging for you to re-release on the PS5 or port to the PC because it's developed by From Software, a company who is not even close to being a first-party developer, is having what many consider to be one of their best games held hostage on the PS4 because Sony just won't allow it to go anywhere else. There is no good justification for this. And then on top of the fact that this is just horrible for game preservation, we also have to look at the fact that Sony is seemingly unwilling to put the From Software Soulsborne game, like not just a Soulsborne game, it's the Soulsborne game. It is the Born in Soulsborne. They are refusing to put that on the PC, the platform that undeniably has the most enthusiasm for Souls-type games. I truly do not understand what the strategy is right now, especially as Elden Ring continues to dominate the Steam sales charts, all because it has an expansion coming out. Elden Ring is at the top of the Steam sales charts, despite being 2 years old, because that's how many new copies of the game are selling in anticipation of a DLC. Sony, what are you doing? So not only are you completely incompetent as a game preserver, but you're also completely incompetent as a PC publisher, despite your insistence on being a PC publisher. Sony, you keep just outdoing yourselves. But naturally, the PlayStation fan base had to spin this news that the Bloodborne director and many people who worked on the game itself want it on more platforms. The PlayStation dudes now have to spin that into a positive thing because that's just what you do. Sony is at fault for something, so you gotta spin it even if it's something objectively bad, like refusal to preserve a beloved game and make a whole bunch of money off of it. It's the current year, and yet we have PlayStation dudes trying to argue that this is actually a good thing. And it seems the best argument they can come up with most of the time is just something PC gamers are bad. Let's go. Silent Dad Plays Games responds to the news and says, "Come on, PlayStation, Miyazaki wants more gamers to experience this classic, and so do the gamers. Please release a Bloodborne remaster for PC/PS5 already." But then Liar Keith says, "It's not lost on older hardware, it's literally playable on new hardware, that is the PS5. Just buy a PS5, skull emoji. Sony doesn't owe PC players anything." Oh, Bloodborne's a native PS5 game. Interesting. I just think that's interesting that it's a native PS5 game. Oh wait, no, it's not a native PS5 game? It's only been released for the PS4? Oh, that sounds a lot to me like it's about to be lost on older hardware. You're telling me that your ability to play this game is entirely reliant on whether or not new sets of hardware are compatible with the PlayStation 4? That sounds to me like it's about to be lost to old hardware. Also, I'm fully aware of the fact that Sony doesn't owe PC gamers anything. I don't think any PC gamers actually believe that Sony owes us anything. But despite the fact that they don't owe us anything, it is rather comical that they are now relying on us to juice their PSN numbers. Just, throwing that out there. It's a little bit of comedy for you. Like, Sony doesn't owe you anything as a PC gamer. Well, Sony does seem like they think they're entitled to our business. So, you might as well give us Bloodborne. It has nothing to do with whether or not we are owed it, but it has everything to do with Sony just ignoring it for some reason. Like, they're a company who wants to make money. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, if a game's ability to be played on newer hardware is entirely reliant on backwards compatibility in the software, that game is not preserved. Lil EP Guy says, "For all their posturing about being the best place to play with the best games, PC gamers sure do spend an awful lot of time online begging for ports of console games." Today I learned that Miyazaki is just port begging. The guy who made the game is just port begging because he thinks it should be available on more platforms. Sony knows what's best for you. Sony knows how to be respectful of IP. There can't possibly be a reason for the director of a game to want the game to be more accessible other than him just being a port beggar. There's no other reason. Like, I don't know how you look at this report of the thing that the game director said and then have your immediate response be to complain about PC gamers. If anyone is taking platforms too seriously here, I don't think it's the PC gamers. Depresso says they should release a PS5 exclusive remake only. I'll never play it, skill issue, but of all the fan bases, PC crying sounds the best. So, you aren't even going to play the game. It doesn't affect you at all what happens to the game because you're not going to play it, and yet you still think the game shouldn't be preserved despite the wishes of the game's creator, all because you want to hear PC gamers be upset about something. Aren't PlayStation dudes so cool? Don't PlayStation dudes have such awesome ideas of how the industry should be? Like, you're literally advocating for games to not be preserved for the sole reason of spite. Like, why are you like this? Going back to this post from Silent Dad Plays Games, he got a different response from someone named Cole who says, "PlayStation owns nothing to PC?" You mean owes nothing to PC, you goofus cake. Says PlayStation owes nothing to PC though. Fugitive responds, says they're releasing everything else for PC now, so there's no reason to keep Bloodborne trapped on old hardware a la MGS4. And then Cole responds, it's not trapped, it's playable on PS5 and PS4. Again, keeping a game on a console and just one generation of console is not proper preservation. Because again, what if Sony doesn't support PS4 backwards compatibility in the future? Then what happens to Bloodborne? It will be unplayable on the new consoles, and since it was never properly ported anywhere else, it will become abandonware. If Sony actually cared about properly preserving this game, they would do a native port to the PS5 at the very least, or just release a flippin' PC port. Because on top of the game preservation aspect, there's just, again, the added money aspect. You would make so much cash off of this game, and you're just not doing it for some reason. Just because a game is playable right this second on a certain set of hardware, that doesn't mean it's been properly preserved. Although, that said, once the PS4 version is properly up for emulation on the PC, it will be properly preserved. So, if you're someone who wants Sony to succeed and have a whole bunch of money for doing all this stuff, don't you think they should just get ahead of it and release the game on PS5 and PC? and make some money off the preservation, or would you rather the PS4 version just be emulated forever and Sony make no money? I'm just trying to appeal to all sides of this possible disagreement. It makes no sense, even if you're a Sony guy, why you wouldn't want Sony to start properly preserving this game, because you benefit as well. But you're just too much of a goofball to notice that, I guess. Japan hates Xbox, quote tweets and says, only true Souls fans should have access to Bloodborne, so PC gamers are out. I'd rather the franchise die and never come back than be ported to PC. PC gamers do not deserve this game. PC gamers are poser Souls players. So even though PC players buy and play more Souls-likes than PlayStation players, the PlayStation is the platform of the true Souls players because Sony paid enough money to keep Demon Souls and Bloodborne as exclusives. That's why the PlayStation is the true Souls platform. And just in case you thought he was done, Japan Hates Xbox says in another post, hey, PlayStation and Herman Holst, if you really want to convert more PC players to PlayStation, start money-hatting more Souls games. Look at how pathetic they beg like little butthurt babies over Demon Souls and Bloodborne. Souls fans will never choose PC. Come on, man. You used to at least try. You know what I mean? You used to at least put some effort into your baits, and this has to be bait. I refuse to believe this isn't bait, because, like, this just doesn't make any flippin' sense now, does it? Elden Ring is blasting the PC sales charts right now. Souls fans are choosing the PC, and that's why there's demand for Bloodborne and Demon Souls. If PC players were all just fake Souls fans, and fake Souls fans would never actually choose the PC, why is there so much demand from PC gamers for the Souls games? You literally cannot have it both ways. Are the PC players fake Souls fans, or are there no PC Souls fans? I'm going to lose my mind. The fact that we're here amazes me. Like, the fact that we're actually gatekeeping Bloodborne from the director of Bloodborne, how much of an asshat do you have to be? The guy who made the game is like, yo, I sure would love to see this on more platforms because I sure would love to see more people enjoy the game. Sony, from everything we have, it looks like Sony is just like, nah, we're not gonna do that because we don't, I don't know, ooh, what's that shiny thing? Better make another cinematic third-person action game about it. And you guys see Sony as the bigger person here because that's how much you hate PC gamers. All because PC gamers committed the grave sin of not wanting to play on PlayStation. You guys are a trip, and I love it. Never change. Okay, toodles.